How much can you spend in retirement without running out of money? That is a very important question for retirees. You've worked hard to save and accumulate money for retirement, and now you want to retire and turn that money into a paycheck to support your lifestyle for retirement. But you don't want to spend too much so that you have a gap later in life, but you also don't want to spend too little so that you don't get to enjoy the retirement that you've worked so hard for. So how do you determine what that amount of initial spending should be? Well, a very popular rule of thumb is the 4% rule. And the 4% rule is really pretty simple. The 4% rule says that you take the amount of money that you have when you retire, add that all up, and you take 4% of that. And that is your beginning withdrawal in the very first year. The next year, you take the withdrawal that you had in the first year and you adjust that for inflation. So just as an example, if you have $2 million, then in the first year, your distribution, your withdrawal would be $80,000. 4% of $2 million is $80,000. If inflation is 3% that year, then in the next year, you would adjust the $80,000 by 3% inflation, and that would become $82,400. So in the second year, your withdrawal would be $82,400. And you would do that each and every year for the next 30 years. And the 4% rule says that if you follow that rule, you should have plenty of money to cover a 30-year retirement without running out of money. Now, where did we get this 4% rule? The 4% rule is attributed to a financial advisor by the name of Bill Bengen. And Bill Bengen is an advisor in California. And in the mid-1990s, he was trying to determine what is a safe withdrawal rate so that he felt confident in the plans he was putting together for his clients. And he looked at all of the data from stocks and bonds from 1926 through 1976. That gave him some good starting points to look at what would have happened if people had retired in those years. And he assumed that people that did retire in each one of those years invested 50% in stocks and 50% in bonds. And then he analyzed what could they take as a starting distribution rate, adjust it for actual inflation over those periods, so what they would have really experienced in inflation, and not run out of money after a 30-year retirement. And he determined that a 4% per starting withdrawal was a safe withdrawal rate, that did not run out of money for a 30 to 33 year retirement period. And that is where we get the 4% rule. Now, I want to talk in the next coming videos about this 4% rule and some pros and cons to following it, as well as some questions that you should think about as you might apply it to your own situation. And so I want you to be sure and subscribe so you don't miss those videos. Those are going to be some very good videos with good information to build further on this topic because we are here to help you be on your best path for your retirement.